Funding for the Islip Arts Council's historic homes and houses of worship is made possible by the generous support of the Robert D.L. and Gardiner Foundation. Learn more at rdlgfoundation.org.
Welcome to the Islip Arts Council Historic Homes and Houses of Worship series. This program was made possible by the Robert D.L. and Gardiner Foundation. The goal of this grant is to enhance public visitation to historic homes and introduce a new purpose for touring the venue by including art and music. In this unique series, the guided tour of each location is enhanced by a musical performance by selected artists whose style fits the period of the home, or in some cases, the location of the home. Every concert was recorded inside these amazing locations. Our cameras will give you a glimpse into the elegance of these homes, but there's so much more to see. We weren't able to fit everything into this program. A known fact is that the town of Islip encompasses many smaller hamlets that were homes of the Gilded Age. So the next time that you're on the South Shore of Long Island in the town of Islip, a town of over 340,000 people, make sure to visit these historic homes and houses of worship and enjoy.
Hello, my name is Frank Giebfried. I'm a docent here at the Meadow Croft Estate. The Meadow Croft Estate has been on the National Registry since 1987. It is the summer home of John Ellis Roosevelt and his family. John Ellis Roosevelt was familiar with the Sayville area because his father established his estate north of here. By 1910, the Roosevelts had over 215 acres on their compound. Robert Barnwell Roosevelt's brother was Theodore Roosevelt Sr. The family was so close that President Theodore Roosevelt visited the Meadow Croft estate in July of 1903. The story that was reported in the paper was that after a thunderstorm, President Roosevelt, his son, and two of his nephews left Sagamore Hill at about 1 a.m. And it's here that Teddy probably had lunch with his cousin and family. One of the stories that was also reported is that the Secret Service did not know where the president was. He just left, which is very typical of Teddy Roosevelt. Certain authors have reported that Teddy felt like that was kind of babysitting. And if you remember, President Roosevelt's predecessor, President McKinley, was assassinated. As you enter the grounds of Meadow Croft, you drive down a dirt road. The original entranceway would have had white willows hanging over the road, so you'd have been driving through a tunnel. When you got to the fork in the road, the Meadow Croft estate would have appeared. If you took the drive to the east, that was for the guests, so Teddy Roosevelt would have taken that one. The servants and service driveway was to the west. The house itself is a combination of two types of architecture. It is Colonial Revival, and it is also Queen Anne. To the rear is the original farmhouse. When the Roosevelts purchased the property, they did not knock down the farmhouse. What they did is they put this addition on that we see here. The house kind of laid dormant for quite a while. However, there is a story that Jean, the youngest daughter, was actually born here, would come here every year for her birthday and have a picnic with her family. In 1974, Suffolk County bought the property from Jean Roosevelt. Then our organization, the Bayport Blue Point Heritage Association, worked with the county to restore the property and turn it into the museum. Well, that concludes our introduction to Meadow Croft. Now let's go inside and enjoy some music from Yeou-Cheng and Elinor Zayas.
Hello, my name is Elinor Zayas, and I'm very happy to be here at Meadow Croft today to perform with Yeou-Cheng and play some music in this beautiful, beautiful space. I'd like to talk a little bit about the piano that I'll be playing on today. This was an original piano to the Roosevelt family. It is a Horace Waters piano, and I am given to understand that it was moved from Saratoga Springs down to Meadow Croft, and it's just a beautiful case, and we're taking very good care of it today. I'm very happy to be playing on it.
I'm Yeou-Cheng, and I'm very pleased to be here with Ellie. I'm a pediatrician and the executive director of the Children's Orchestra Society, which was founded by my father. And under his direction, grandchildren of the Roosevelts were members of his orchestra. So it's a real coincidence, and it's just full circle to be coming here, and I'm very excited to be here. Our first piece is by Johann Sebastian Bach.
As we step into the house, we enter the Great Hall. When the house was restored, our founders had John Ellis Roosevelt's ledger. We know what furniture was in each room of the house when he bought it in 1891. The downstairs of the house is furnished with period-correct furniture or original furniture that was donated back by the Roosevelt family. We have several photographs that show what the house looked like in the 1890s. To my left is an ingle nook. This room would have functioned as kind of a living room for the family. If you imagine them waking up in the morning and coming down here, they would have made their plans for the day. To my right is the dining room. This would have been the room that President Roosevelt would have had lunch in back in 1903. The table and chairs in the room are original. The story goes that when the house was purchased by Suffolk County, Barney Lachlan, who is a longtime caretaker for the Roosevelts, was offered any furniture that he wanted from Mrs. Jean Roosevelt. He chose to take the table and chairs. When we became a museum, Barney donated the table and chairs back. Welcome to the ladies' parlor. We have a grand fireplace with the original mantle. Some of the furniture is original to the actual house. What you see behind me here is the original Roosevelt piano. It was made by Horace Waters. The family purchased the piano in 1898. We also have a lemonade cart, which is also original to the family, although the glassware is not, but it is of the period. If the Roosevelts walked in here, they would have said, "Oh, it's the ladies' parlor. I'm comfortable here." That concludes our brief tour of the first floor of Meadow Croft. Now let's go listen to some more music from Yeou-Cheng and Elinor Zayas.
The next work we'll be playing is by Pauline Viardot Garcia. The sonatina, which we will play, was dedicated to Hubert Leonard, her son Paul's violin teacher, and was written in 1874.
Welcome to the second floor. We're currently in the Roosevelt's master bedroom. In July of 1891, Eugenia, known as Jean, was born to the family, probably in this room. Right next door was Jean's nursery. This wallpaper is a reproduction of what could have been here. It's from the late 1800s. The light that you see next to me here is a kerosene light that's hanging from the ceiling. Other lighting in the room that has been restored are two wall fixtures. The house was originally lit with gas. Most houses that had gas at the time were lit by acetylene. However, this house was powered by Terrell's gas equalizing machine, which used actual gasoline to light the house. This bathroom we're leaving unrestored because we want visitors to see what the house looked like before it was restored by our organization. This room right off the master bedroom was Jean's nursery. It currently houses our library. Across the hall from her parents was Pansy's room. Pansy had her debutante ball at the age of 16, like most wealthy young women would have at the time. Just a few years later, however, an article appeared in one of the New York papers saying that Anita, Pansy Roosevelt, has retired from society due to nervous prostration. It meant she had some type of mental illness. She stayed at institutions in Flushing and upstate New York, and unfortunately she passed away in 1929. After Pansy, we know that Gladys stayed in this room. Gladys married a man named Fairman Rogers Dick. They would like to ride to the hounds and hunt foxes at the Meadowbrook Club. Unfortunately, in 1926, when they were at the club, they were warned by a groundskeeper not to take a certain jump because it had just rained. Gladys, I guess feeling a little bit brave, decided to take the jump. Unfortunately, the horse flipped and killed her instantly. That concludes our tour of the second floor. In a few minutes, we're going to take a look at the grounds. But let's go back downstairs to the ladies' parlor first and listen to some more music from Yeou-Cheng and Elinor Zayas.
Argentine-born Astor Piazzolla, master composer and bandoneonist. Piazzolla's music lends itself exceptionally well to arrangement. And today we share Calambre, a tango.
Welcome to the Audubon on the property of the Roosevelts. The house, the Audubon was built in 1903 and added on in 1905. And it has lots of beautiful features in there. John Ellis Roosevelt loved cars. There's some early pictures of his daughters driving. That wasn't usually accepted at that period of time. They didn't own this Maxwell, But his daughter is pictured on the wall here driving a Maxwell, a 1903 Maxwell. The Maxwell is a 4-cylinder. It is a dual 6 and 12 volt system to power it. It's a touring car. All the doors open, where a Model T is usually the driver's side and the passenger side doesn't open. It has no windshield wipers. You'd have to reach over and just wipe it, or there would be a little hand windshield wiper on the outside that you'd have to push back and forth to do it. It does have automatic start, so you don't have to crank it, break your arm. A lot of times the electricity system didn't work. Get out there and crank. Well, in the back there is a workshop. They had to have their own workshop at that period of time because there's not that many gas stations. So if something broke, you'd have to mend it, spot weld it, forge it. There's all his tools back there. So you had to be a jack of all trades. You just couldn't, get in a car and drive it, and if it broke down, just call the, AAA up. In the early days of automobiling, there was no paved roads, and most of the roads were dirt or a little bit of cobblestone or gravel. And a lot of the early cars didn't even have windshields. So they would wear a duster. They would have their fancy clothes underneath there. They would wear goggles on the top because the dust would be so strong, and definitely a hat. They would go picnicking. They would have this metal part attached to this running boards. Foot warmers in the wintertime, you'd fill it up with coals or heavy stone that would be heated. They'd have to have oil on premises, and it would be in glass bottles. This building was built in 3 pieces. So this was the last section built onto the building. He was getting bigger cars, more cars. So he needed a forge and a work area where he could bring the engines in there. In the carriage shed, there was originally the carriage was stored there and the horses were in there. After the horses and that just started to disappear, Mr. Roosevelt started to move more cars into the carriage barn. Having this car fills a niche here. It brings in a whole new perspective of the house.
George Friedrich Handel. His violin sonata in D major, HWV 371, was composed in 1749 to 1750. We will be playing Allegro con brio.
Meadow Croft. Meadow Croft is the home of John Ellis Roosevelt, the first cousin of Teddy Roosevelt, our president, and famously Teddy Roosevelt's personal lawyer. This was a classic summer home. It was meant to be a place where family gathered away from the formality of New York City. They hunted, they fished, they played tennis, they painted. All of them were amateur artists, and that is pretty much the impetus for this show. The Islip Arts Council put out a call for proposal for artists that would come here and paint Meadow Croft. Many of them reference the Roosevelt passions, their passions for painting, their passions for automobile racing, their passions for boat building, for the Great South Bay.
I actually sang the Star-Spangled Banner here for a dedication about 25 years ago. And about 11 years ago, I did a photo shoot around the area, around Meadow Croft, with 6 or 7 other photographers. So when I saw that there was a Meadow Croft exhibition, I went back to the photos I took 11 years ago. So what I chose was a picture of the outhouse. The trees were beautifully green and the outhouse was sort of a grayish blue color. And I thought, well, that's interesting. And then when I was touring the grounds, I found the tombstone of Billy, the Scottish cairn terrier that had died in 1929, and they had buried him on the grounds and had made the tombstone.
This is really my first contest or art show that I've entered, and definitely not the last. I ended up referencing a photo that I found on a website, and everything I did was digital art on the program I use, Procreate. I'm really into like an October Halloween theme currently, so I was just in that mood.
I was brought here first by a teacher I had for 20 years, and we painted here a lot of summers. And I have a lot of paintings from then. So one was the yellow house, and that was from here. And then the other one was from a photo I took years ago of one of the students painting. Where would she have been? I guess down there, painting at an easel.
We have been going to national, state, county, parks, arboretums, etc., since we couldn't travel because of COVID. And looking at the barn, one door was closed and you could only see half of the car. The door colors really stood out and it made a nice photograph. The other one was the car barn from out in the field with a nice feel to it.
I own a house that was built in 1896. I'm really into old houses, and when I heard this was happening, I said, I gotta get down here, I gotta take pictures. It has definitely opened my eyes and shown me there's a place I can come here anytime I want to. I don't have to pay a fee, I don't have to, talk to people. I can come here and just shoot away.
First piece is about coming into the property. It's the majestic impact that the roadway has and the reeds glistening in the sun. I mean, it's just a warm, inviting turn as soon as you come off the road. The second thing that was really an inspiration was this large boat that was strapped to the side of the building that was rich in texture and light from the afternoon sun, and the impact of standing in the back of the building with the afternoon light reflecting off the floor, and it illuminated all the wonderful wood textures within the building.
This special full moon was coming up, and I had been here and had seen where it was going to be coming up. So I had a headlamp on, I had the tripod, I was waiting for that moon to come up, and I just was able to grab it just at the right time. Then the other one was more of a sepia-toned shot. This building is lit up beautifully at night, so it just absorbed that special light. I drive by here all the time. It's got a special flavor, it's got a special vortex, it's got a special feeling. It's here on the water, but it feels like you could feel the spirit of this building.
We're in a very high-paced life here on Long Island. You just have to stop, take the turn down the dirt road, chill a little, relax, and really start to savor the riches that are right here on Long Island.
Well, thanks for joining me here for a very brief tour of Meadow Croft. We hope you'll come back for a full tour and learn a lot more about the Roosevelt family who lived here. We're open every weekend during the summer from 2 to 4. Won't you come down and join us?